everyone, and welcome to another edition of Check-In. This is game number 60.
And they just keep winning.
Yes, they do. I was like, what's so funny about game number 60?
I'll just say, because all they do is win. So it's just like, what else can we talk about?
Who sings that song?
All they do is win. No, yeah. I don't know who it is, but I remember it.
Yeah.
It came out the year, I heard it a lot during the Blackhawks Stanley Cup run of 2010, because they won a lot, obviously.
I didn't know it was that old. All right.
Yeah.
Well, on this edition of Check-In, hopefully we'll be able to provide you with more insight than that.
Whoa, we just went deep there.
So you can watch us as always on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Smash that like button, thumbs up. We want to see so many people. Hopefully see you in the chat today. Love to be able to see everybody that joins us as we get you ready for this game tonight against the Nashville Predators. You mentioned it right there. All they do is win. Mason Appleton described last night's win in Ottawa as an ugly win, but for the 11th straight pregame, we come to you after a win. They've now won 11 straight games. They also lead the league with 34 goal games.
Yeah, and then tied with Washington for the most goals with 212.
So on and so we could just run down the whole list.
Wins.
Latest being the game though last night in Ottawa.
So where Mason Appleton said it was the ugliest one. I'm not quite sure that. I just thought that Ottawa tried to slow it down quite a bit when it was 3-0. They kind of fought back into it. But the weirdest part of it was, or not the weirdest part, the nicest thing to see here is you've gone 4 games without a power play goal and you're still winning.
Yeah.
And they had a long extended 5-on-3, couldn't generate much. So Ottawa has to be given some credit in that situation. And Linus Ullmark was really good last night as well. But it's just, it's apparent that they can win in so many different ways. You know, last year they had to count on their 5-on-5 play and you're like left wanting more with their power play. Now the power play is number 1 in the NHL. It's not executing as fine as it has been all year, but they still keep winning. So there's, you asked me before we came on, should be worried about the power play. I'm like, if they're winning, then it's hard to be concerned about it. But they were generating chances. That's the whole thing behind it. But Cole Perfetti answered a very good question from Mike McIntyre. It's just like, ordinarily when a team kills off an extended 5-on-3, it builds momentum for them. And Ottawa generated nothing after that, I felt, where, Winnipeg could have blown the gates open with a power play goal or 2 in that situation. They get nothing, but Ottawa didn't really come back on that one either. So I think what Winnipeg did last night was take advantage of Ottawa missing 51 goals out of their lineup. And that's what you should do in that situation.
Yeah, and they'll deal with a Nashville team tonight that could be without their captain in Roman Josi. We will talk more about last night and, just general thoughts of, again, how this team has been rolling and what we've been seeing this season as this show goes on. We're looking forward to having TSN's James Duthie join us in a little under 10 minutes at about 12:40. What is it that you're looking forward to hearing from James?
So I threw this in when you went to go get ready for the show. I want to do the fill in the blank. So Trade Center is success if blank.
Oh, okay.
And Trade Center is not so much failure, but a dud maybe if this happens. I don't know if he'll go along with that one. Yeah. But we'll have to see, because it is a long day.
It is.
You and I have both been in studios or part of trade deadline shows. And we're not near as much screen time as James Duthie gets in that.
Of course not.
It is a long day. And I even remember back in the days when I worked in Toronto at Sportsnet, it's just ridiculous. Like the early, how both networks would fight back and forth between what time they would go on air.
Yeah.
They're earlier. And I'm like, nothing happens then.
I used to joke that I would beat.
What time would you always be here at?
Oh, I don't remember. We do it maybe 7:30.
Like what time would your first hit usually be?
That's a good question. They always did the West. They always did the East first,
of course,
for it. But I just remember talking with Kevin Shoveldayoff at times where I would say, well, I have to be in at the rink at this time tomorrow. And he can go, well, you're going to beat us.
Yeah.
Or the number of times
so if you're here before them.
Or the number of times that you see reporters for the various networks on location.
Mm-hmm.
You see them standing outside the rink and it's pitch black because it's, 4:30 in the morning in San Jose, and they're standing outside the rink. But,
and then there's a world famous, but that was Arash Danny was on trade deadline. That was when he was waiting to see if John Tavares.
Right. That was not.
I'm mixing up dates.
That was not trade deadline. No. But we'll talk to. Looking forward to having James on. Always great to be able to talk to him. But let's talk a little bit about this game tonight in Nashville. Now, no skate for the Jets, obviously, having played last night in Ottawa. So when you think of what the lines are going to be, we are expecting them, at least going into this, to be the same as
we were a betting man and woman.
Right.
This is what it would look like.
That's what we're thinking. We're not expecting any changes, especially not having won their last 11 games. Other than in net, Eric Comrie will get the start. Eric Comrie played the last time these two teams met in Nashville. Also the second game of a back-to-back. If you remember, they were coming in off of the game in Pittsburgh. And that was really where we started to see if there was a slump for the Jets offensively this season. That was kind of where it started, was that game in Nashville where we saw so many games in a row where they seemed to be able to only score 1 or 2 goals.
And also the horror shown as Dylan Sandberg breaking his foot.
Right.
On the one-timer from Steven Stamkos, the block shot that's put him out for 20-plus games. So let's hope that does not happen again, because Dylan Sandberg, since the Jets have come out of the break, has continued his play. He's logged a lot of minutes. Huge part of what the Jets do.
Yeah.
Nightly.
Yeah. So season series right now currently sits at 2-1 in favor of the Jets. If you look at the way that these seasons obviously have gone, very different. Winnipeg on top of the league standings, they've got 87 points, 42 wins. Nashville, meanwhile, 40 points fewer. And there were so many great expectations for Nashville with the offseason signings and the job that Barry Trotz had done bringing in big name players. You never thought that goal scoring was going to be an issue. And I think a lot of people, or a lot of headlines at least, were generated after their loss Tuesday night. That was the game against Florida in which Roman Josi was injured. Yeah. But Luke Schenn generated a lot of headlines with his comments, and part of it was you don't even really know what to say anymore as far as the overall team game. Nothing's easy, obviously. I don't think I've ever been part of a group where you literally can't score goals. And you look at their lineup, you would never think that this would have been an issue.
Well, here, like Roman Josi not playing tonight, a -26. Ryan O'Reilly, -20, who was known one of the better two-way forwards in the game, like one of the best. Steven Stamkos, -20. Like Philip Forsberg, who has 53 points in 57 games, on -14. So it's like a lot of the numbers you're seeing don't make sense with the lineup that they run out. And UC Saros, who is 12, 24, and 6 this year, 2.93 goals against average. You know, you're under 3. You would think that you'd win a lot more games than that. But that just as goes to your point about them not being able to score. And going back to the first game that Finland played against the United States on the Thursday, they lose 6-1. Like UC Saros talked to a member of the media, like off the side, and he was emotional because like he was like distraught. Just about that's the year he's had, and then he was also frustrated because he had played a tougher game in Forest Country as well. So a lot of this is like starting to weigh. Oh, not starting to. It has been weighing on these guys for a long time.
Yeah, I just looking in the comments right now from people. A lot of people wanting to know about what the status is for Morgan Barron, and that would be the one question mark I think. With respect to if we saw a change in the line, would you see Morgan Barron draw back in? Since that was when they left on the road, that was seen as maybe a possibility. We'll have to wait until warm up to be able to see, because again, there's no availability today. It is a day where they go through their routine, very similar to usual in terms of you have your power play meetings, your PK team meetings, but it's done at the hotel unless you are really a scratch, then you stay off the ice.
Yeah, and so Morgan Barron, they said that there's an opportunity, going back to what you said. So that doesn't necessarily mean
it does not.
And I guess the best thing and best way to talk about it is you're going to have to pay attention at 6:30 to maybe the lineup or the warm-ups and see if he's out there at all. But at this point, we're not sure. I don't think Morgan Barron's going to play tonight, which gives you a great opportunity for maybe him to come back against Philadelphia on Saturday.
Yeah, it would be a great one. The next game, so this is the end of the road trip tonight for the Jets, and then they are home just for the one game before heading back out, but home against the Philadelphia Flyers, the first time we see the Flyers actually this season. That's on Saturday.
You know who likes being one and done?
No.
James Duthie. James Duthie likes to be one and done, don't you?
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know either. Did you see the look on my face? No, I don't know where to go with this.
Sometimes you say
like to apologize.
To, yes. That's your guys' fault for going where you're going with this. In a different way, but that's okay. It is.
James is never going to join us again.
How about this? Wives, one wife and done. Right? that what you meant?
That's exactly what I meant.
That is
Networks.
Yeah.
One TV network
Yeah.
and done.
Thank you.
There you go.
See, you read the tea leaves, went the direction I was hoping you were doing.
Just
Thank you.
bailing your ass out is what I'm doing.
Loyalty. That's all this is about.
James, wanted to ask you, first off, thanks for coming on with us today. And I wanted to ask you, especially around this time of year, it's perfect because obviously trade deadline, we know how significant that is on the sports calendar and on the network calendar as well. So when people talk to you this time of year, whether it be fans, whether it be when you're doing interviews like this, is the first thing everyone wants to know how you are feeling going into this deadline, how concerned you are that all of the trades are going to happen before deadline day.
Yeah, it's kind of become the running gag of my career. Can you guys see me, by the way? Okay, I have the worst cell phone service in the world. Okay. It's been, I think I probably started it. I don't know when it started, probably a decade ago, when people would always be on Twitter whenever there was a trade before the deadline. They'd be like, James Duthie curled up in the fetal position right now, which was kind of accurate, to be honest, for a lot of years. And I think I fed into it. I would start posting memes of exactly those kind of things, and grown men crying, etc. And I, like I said, there was for a lot of years I did actually really worry about it, because there was a few years there where nothing happened at all, and it is challenging to fill 9 hours when nothing happens. But I think I've kind of embraced it later in my career, that we have, it's the one day a year. Almost every commentator is either in the studio or, as Sara used to always do, the reporters are all on location. And so it's kind of fun. It's if the worst thing you can do is sit around and talk hockey for 9 hours with a bunch of really smart guys and girls, I think that's a fun thing to do, even if you don't get deals. But I still want deals. Really, I really do.
So there's a lot of work that goes into these shows. No question about that. Hours, days, weeks put into it. We want to know, like, are there skits and ideas that possibly that have been shot down that you thought were good ideas over the years?
Are you the one that comes up with them?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to just make this sound like tooting my own horn. In the early days, I think I would. I come up with a lot of the stuff, and so I'll take blame for a lot of the terrible ones, as much as any credit for the good ones. Even if maybe there's no credit for the good ones, maybe it's just blame for all the terrible ones. But I've done this. I think this will be my 23rd maybe Trade Center show. And at a certain point, you do run out of ideas. And I think about 4 years ago, Jeff Mott, our producer, called me, in January and said, "Okay, so what are all the bits you're doing for Trade Center this year?" And I'm like, "Mocker, I'm pretty much dry now." So maybe somebody else could come up with some stuff. So we have, our producers come. I think it's a team thing. Our producers come up with stuff. We try not to, as much as the problem is, I think that in people's memories, like, all they'll remember from trade deadline will be, Marty Biron hitting Jennifer Hedger with the t-shirt cannon, or the llamas we had, or any of that.
What about
because
trading?
all the trades, Trady, the mascot.
Yeah.
That was my idea that probably failed, but I loved it. You see, to me, the things that are funny are the things that only maybe 5% of the people think are funny,
and that's all that matters.
Yeah, so that's probably not the best way my bosses would say for ratings, but that's kind of the way I laugh at things. Like, we're doing something this year to open the show, which I can't give away too much, but I'm in a position at the beginning of the skit, which I know my bosses weren't too thrilled about, but I'm like, guys, come on, if you can't take yourself, we can't take us. Nobody takes me seriously anyway, so I don't know why anyone would start taking me seriously now. So my wife was alarmed by it. I'll say that. So
really? Okay.
Yeah, that's not a teaser to join in right at the beginning. You do not want to wait until mid-afternoon to join the show this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So so I come up with some of them. They come up with others. Some fail. Some are probably the stupidest thing they ever did was one year they gave me a soundboard. Which is basically they gave me all these sound effects right under my desk that I could hit at any time. And so there was crickets, there was a laugh track, there was, a couple of trendy sound bites at the time. I can't remember what they were, whether it was Brian Burke or, yeah, so like, whatever with the hot sound bites at the time, and I could just play them anytime during the day. And that was, that was a really dumb idea for them to give that to me because I overdid it probably by about 100-fold. Like every time, someone would try to say something funny, I'd hit the crickets button, even if it was funny. And then I would hit the laugh track button, when Drager was giving serious information, so he was mad at me. So the whole thing was just really stupid, and I think they regretted that one.
It's like long day. So you have to entertain yourself at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we're going to fill in the blanks here. Trade Center is a success if blank.
Well, I mean, in my mind, Trade Center is a success if I don't do anything that gets myself fired and that people are reasonably entertained through the day.
Yeah.
I guess I would extend that to say if we have a couple of really good things to talk about, even if a deal doesn't go down, if there's something really interesting that pops up, if Sidney Crosby's name somehow comes up and it's legitimate and we're wondering before the deadline if it could possibly happen. I mean, that's a bit of a stretch, but you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
If the Jets decide there's suddenly a rumor that the Jets are all in on somebody, those things, even if they don't necessarily happen, if it's something that can grip and hold our audience for a while, I kind of consider that a success. I would like to see, 2 or 3 deals of consequence.
Yeah.
I think, which I don't think is asking that much, really.
No, that isn't. So, which leads us to the next question. Trade Center is a bust if blank.
Trade Center is a bust.
We're playing here. This is just theoretical.
Trade Center is a bust if it's all depth defensemen for fourth round draft picks.
Prospects.
We were joking the other night that the show should actually be called Puck Moving Defenseman because that's all anybody wants. Like every time the insiders talk, it's like the Jets, Vegas, the Oilers, the Leafs, the Capitals, the Panthers, the Lightning, all looking for a puck moving defenseman. And when I will retire the day that a team announces they're looking for a defenseman who cannot move the puck whatsoever.
Yeah. That's when you've peaked and it's time to go on. You've done everything.
That's right.
Happy.
I had to laugh at that because, James, I was on Overdrive yesterday and the guys were asking me, and I made mention about, that every time that you and I would speak, it seemed every year I would say, well, James, they're looking for a second line center and a top 4 defenseman.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been Jeff O'Neill that chimed in and said, no, Sarah, puck moving defenseman.
That's right. That's right.
That is what
Sarah, I mean, I loved all your hits over the years. We probably did this together for, 15 years or something.
Yeah.
But I preferred the free agency Sarah Oleski hits because that's when we had you, or maybe it was COVID, I don't know. That's when we had the deer running behind you and the wind machine in full operation. I preferred that over the arena shots at trade deadline.
Yeah, Onright brought that up quite a bit actually as well. The shrubbery behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All credit.
That was my favorite part of the day.
Yeah, all credit to my cameraman, Freddie. It's, smoke and mirrors. It's just, you just got to handle it really correctly, frame it properly.
That's right.
Very quickly before we let you go, because we know how busy you are, James.
I'm really not busy at all today, but thank you for saying that.
You like how we decide if you're busy or not, James? You look very busy.
I tried to make you sound really busy. Okay.
I'm watching like 7 episodes straight of Full Swing today, so that's what I'm doing.
In 2018, when the Jets went to the conference final, we saw you out here, the panel out here. I mean, we're obviously hoping that in this city that the Jets go far this year, hoping that many Canadian teams get in, just from a Canadian hockey fan perspective and what it means for the game. Could we see you, though, do you think, out in Winnipeg this year?
I would love that. First of all, just a quick comment on the Jets. I think it's ludicrous that they're not, they're 5th or whatever in Stanley Cup odds right now. But if I was the Jets and I was their fans, I would embrace all of this. Mm-hmm. I would hope that, we'll probably do our top 5 Stanley Cup favorite picks. The panel always does on trade deadline day. And I hope that nobody picks the Jets. And because I think the Jets should just feed into all this. I hope that, that everyone doubts them. They can use just all of this, Kyle Connor being benched in the final,
Yeah.
Shifley not being on the team. I just think suck all of this in and then use it all come playoff time, because to me it's a travesty that if they're not the Stanley Cup favorite right now, that they're not number 2. But like I said, if I was the Jets, I'd embrace all of that stuff. I would love to be out there. I think there's a really good chance of it. We probably won't travel till maybe you got to get to a conference final. My favorite memory from that trip, actually, my producer Bill Dotson brings it up all the time, is this is how you get your priority of your level of fame or whatever. We were walking towards the game, and there's all sorts of fans on the street, and so these fans are coming towards me. And this fan goes, "James Duthie, I can't believe it. I love you." And I'm like, big-headed James. Oh, nice. And then as soon as then all of a sudden he spots the guy behind me. And he's like, "Holy crap, Bob McKenzie." And he just shoves me aside and runs right to Bob. And so that's when I realized, that was more reinforcement of where exactly I stand on the pillar. But I would we would love to come out and be in Winnipeg for a conference final or a Stanley Cup final. That would be awesome.
You were this high for like 5
minutes. Always happens. Always happens.
Right back to there.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a great business, isn't it?
It always is.
All right. Well, James, appreciate it. Even though you apparently have nowhere else to be right now, we're going to let you get back, whether it be to a golf swing, writing another book, whatever might keep you
another
busy.
Podcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
This afternoon.
I have been busy lately, but I'm just not busy today. I wipe my whole docket free for Orlesky. That's what I do usually.
Thanks, buddy.
You're the best, James.
See you guys.
We hope to see you out here.
Yeah. Okay.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
James Duthie.
Do not miss out on Trade Center.
No.
It is honestly, it's one of those ones that I find. Now, granted, when you know all the people involved as well, I feel like it, and obviously working in the industry, it helps the press along. But James is such a phenomenal host for it. The conductor, moving from panel to panel, but all the funny bits, and he's just.
Did you see it?
He's the best.
That weird question I asked him.
Yes.
See, professional.
Yeah.
I just did that on purpose, just to see what he would do.
We appreciate having James join us. As always, we love to see so many of you in the chat as well. Looking around, a lot of people talking about what we could see on trade deadline, what they'd like to see.
Mm-hmm.
We will
there
be
was
talking.
Tons of conversation yesterday about what that could happen, but of course, it's next week. The Jets will be in New Jersey. The actual trade deadline is when they're in
another back-to-back.
Yeah.
Situation for them. So looking forward to. We will be talking about it a lot more. Obviously, just you and I, maybe whether it be memories, what we think the Jets could do. We'll get some conversation going with everyone in the chat as well in the coming games to talk about what you would like to see Kevin Cheveldayoff and company do, or maybe you want to see them be. Do you want to see the team go all in? Do you want to see it be conservative?
I don't like. So I think we've obviously, as this conversation has started to happen, we've all been part of the second center, top 4 defensemen.
Yep.
That kind of has changed for me to another defenseman that fits into the third pairing.
Yep.
And then you're like, okay, they need a second center, but I'm also of the belief that you need a little more size up front, not necessarily up the middle. But here's the hard part: you won 11 in a row.
Right. I think it's a fine line too. Postseason we know is different than regular season. But I also think that I'm always intrigued by the psychology of adding in a player, because I think that we've seen so many, and I'm not speaking about this franchise, but just across the board, we've seen so many trades happen. And then you look at it, hasn't on paper, should be a great fit, hasn't been for whatever reason. And I think that you have to give credit to what this team here has been able to build and have in that room.
And then also everybody that we've had on the show, a lot of people we've had on the show, like James, just talks about how much they want the Jets to do well.
Yeah.
That's the whole part. I mean, it's great for TSN, clearly, if the Jets do well, because it helps their numbers, obviously. And same thing on the other side of the board with Sportsnet because of playoff time. But here's the thing, like, the team is good. And that's where it ties into how do you do this? Who fits in?
Yeah.
And we talked about this yesterday. It's just like fit is almost
chemistry is important.
So, a lot of people are saying depth is important. You just need, talk about this. You get hurt at this position. Where can you least likely lose somebody? And it's going to hurt you the most. And I think we both agree that center is a tough spot. But I think there's going to be a lot of teams trying to get an extra centerman.
Of course.
There's a lot
That's
of
why
contenders.
you can say that about everybody. Everyone's looking for someone that could play in your top four. Whether you'd like in this situation, you would like someone maybe that has the ability to play on that third pairing. But having that versatility, I think every team's looking for.
And then we learned earlier this year how critical of a piece Dylan Sandberg is and how irreplaceable he's become. So that you learn lessons from certain situations like that. So it's going to be very curious to see how this all shakes down, because there's a lot of people looking for the same things, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
Everybody's saying needs a second center, top four defense. So we're going to find out.
What's the weather going to be today?
Yes.
It's a mixed bag.
Yes.
You got a little sunshine. You got to just cover off all the bases. The Jets riding this 11-game streak, 6 wins, 6-0 in February. Only NHL team without a regulation loss this month. Connor Hellebuck, 21-2-2 in his last 25 starts. He's not getting the start today, but played last night. This was something that you might have seen on social media today, this graphic that went out, and I think that we had either retweeted or put it out as well.
Report.
That Connor Hellebuck has more wins than 28 other teams. The only teams, obviously, Winnipeg aside, that have more wins.
Yeah.
Dallas with 37.
Okay.
So Connor has 36.
Yeah.
Dallas with 37, Washington with 38. So just a tremendous job continues to be done. I think that will obviously be one of the big storylines going into the postseason as well. One of the questions, one of the things that I like about where this team is at this year and the way that they've been winning is that they have been getting it kind of across the board. We haven't seen as many games where they've been getting wins where we go, oh, they were lucky to come out with a win in that one.
Yes.
Where I think in that early start to the season, even though it was a historic start for them, there were some games where we went, oh, that was a game that they were lucky to get out of with a few, with the win, with a couple of points.
Well, going back to what Mason Apple said, how that was the ugliest of their wins, but they were in complete control of that game.
Yeah.
Outside of the opening part where Connor Hellebuck had to hold him in. But that's the impressive part of it, because now you're getting really nitpicky if you're Mason Appleton saying that was the ugliest maybe of the 11 wins because of how well they played throughout a lot of the games. But keep in mind, they had to come back in San Jose.
Well,
came in late against
100%,
but played well in both those games beforehand.
Right. Yeah. I'm not saying that they're blowing out teams in this 11-game stretch, but what I am saying is that and use the San Jose one as an example, that they played well against San Jose. We thought they were going to get goalied for it, but this is a team that is resilient. This is a team that continues to find different ways to win, contributions from a number of people across the board, which is what you want to see.
Yeah, I agreed. There's another.
Oh, yes. Very quickly, as we get ready to wrap up,
actual TSN game tonight.
It is a TSN game.
Dan and Kevin back after, I don't even remember.
I don't know. It worked. I think they've spent, 2.5 weeks on a beach.
Have they been back from Mexico?
We were going to have them on, but they were so tanned that you and I would just.
Yeah, Dan, I didn't get a tan. I'm like, oh, come on. I didn't get a tan. I didn't want one.
So looking forward to having this be a Jets on TSN game this evening. But that also means when it's a Jets on TSN game that you might be able to see a debut from Runway. And the latest episode is out. A small portion of it will be shown because it's about 20 minutes in length, but this is a good one. And I have to admit,
it's emotional. It's emotional.
We might have
cried.
Might have teared up a little bit with the portion, but
might have.
Here's a small glimpse of what you can expect to see tonight.
It's a good schedule. It's the same routine every time.
Generally speaking, we kind of have the same thing to a T every game day. I think people view it as like a superstition from the outside, but really it's being predictable.
Parker Ford, in his first NHL game, has his first NHL goal. Dreams do come true. The Jets for the second time have won 8 straight as the Jets go into the break here for the Four Nations.
Stuff again.
The Parker Ford stuff is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's great.
behind the scenes stuff with his family.
Yeah.
Some really cool stuff with mom and his sister and a lot of other people that were there. You almost felt like an entire section was for Parker Ford.
Yeah, it was great. So you'll be able to catch a glimpse of that in the first intermission tonight on the Jets broadcast. And then, of course, we will be releasing the full episode today for this runway episode, which is another great one.
Matt, you had asked earlier, Roman Yoshi not playing tonight.
Okay. And so very it is, we don't know the status for Morgan Barron. I mean, that would be the one question mark, maybe if they were going to insert him into the lineup, but maybe we see him return to the lineup in the game against Philadelphia. There was no morning skate today, with this being the second game of back-to-back. So we'll have to wait to warm up, and you can catch that with Kevin and Dan on Jets broadcast, or as always, CJOB and Power 97.
Curious to see if Kevin and Dan have how long it takes them to get back into it. Yeah.
Like a minute? I don't know. 2?
Well, Dan said he didn't get a suntan. What was he doing?
He was preparing. Whatever. All right. Okay, this is it. Looking forward to it.
Philadelphia in town.
Be great. First time that
trading partner.
Ooh, maybe that's something we'll talk about. Just saying.
Okay.
Who knows? Thanks so much, everybody, for joining. And thanks so much for joining the chat as well. Always love to see so many of you in there. And we will see you all, hopefully, on Saturday.
Enjoy the game tonight.
Thanks so much for checking in.